Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Education USA Thursday live session. I would like to announce that we are kickstarting the fall 2020 session today, and this is going to be the first session in this series, and this is the right session also. So before we go further with that, I would like to introduce you to our latest mobile app, Education USA India mobile app that we have launched. As we all know, information is in fingertips, so an app will give you a lot more information than probably meeting a person. Okay, so we'll just see a quick promo of Education USA India mobile app, and further to which we will continue the session.
Looking to study in the US and don't know where to start? Education USA is your official source of information on US higher education. And now it's available anytime, anywhere through the Education USA India mobile app. Use our simple 5-step checklist to begin and track your higher education journey. Chat with our answer bot to get tips and unbiased information on shortlisting universities, scholarships, standardized tests, student visas, and a lot more. Share your profile information with an Education USA advisor for help. Get notified and register for Education USA fairs, information sessions and events near you. What's more, learn about student success stories and access useful resources on our social media platforms. All on the Education USA India mobile app. It's official, free, and just a tap away. Download it now.
Okay, that's a quick promotion about our app which we recently launched, and I know since we are kickstarting the session today, I would like to give a short introduction about who we are and what we do. I know many of you here are new to this place, and as well as the online viewers who are joining us today might find this information more useful. So Education USA is a US State Department initiative, and the mandate is to provide the most accurate, comprehensive, current and unbiased information on US higher education. The Education USA centers, you will find them across the globe. We have about 400 centers in 170 countries, and you can always choose to go to the nearest center that is available to you. In India, Education USA program is administered by a binational organization, US India Educational Foundation. In short, we call it USIF or USIEF, in whatever way you would like to address us. So under USIEF, there are 5 centers in India, including the Chennai one. So we have centers in Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad and Kolkata. And we have 2 independent centers operating out of Bangalore and Ahmedabad. Okay, so here is a quick shot on that. So this is about Education USA. So it's completely funded by the US government. So the initiative is not only for international students to get the right information, it is also for those American citizens who are right now located in India and would want to go back to US for their higher education. So this is a quick shot on US India Educational Foundation. So this is a binational entity which promotes cultural and educational exchanges between the 2 countries. So it was established in the year 1950, and you all know the significance of the year 1950, right? I hope so. Okay, so we actually manage 2 programs. One is Education USA, which cater to students. The other one is Fulbright Fellowships, Fulbright and Fulbright Nehru Fellowships. So these fellowships are very prestigious ones, and these are awarded to people who want to go for their master's program, doctoral program and postdoctoral. Apart from that, there are also several other categories under which the Fulbright fellowships are given. So you could visit usief.org.in website to understand more about the Fulbright fellowships and scholarship. So the today's session is application process timeline. So the timeline is very, very essential, isn't it? So it's not for any particular country or a particular thing that we do. Every process or every activity that we do in our life needs to have a timeline, so it helps us to plan better. So as far as US university application process, or if you want to do something about studying in the US, it definitely has a suggested timeline, and if you follow that, you are sure to land in a place which you definitely wanted to be in. Okay. So, with that aspect, I would just give you a brief on how the timeline works. So, this might be quite familiar for many of you. There are 3 different admission cycles that are prevalent in the US universities. So, we call them the seasonal semesters. The most wanted or the most popular and most sought after one is the fall semester, which begins in August or September, and the next is spring and summer. So, if you look at the way the student actually go to US and study, most of them would prefer the fall semester, and of course, there are few who would like to go for spring and maybe fewer who wants to go for a summer semester. There is definitely a reason. The fall being the major intake, the programs, scholarships and anything, any other facility as a student you would seek for is always available in the fall semester. When you come to spring semester, the opportunity for more scholarships and other things would be very minimal, and also some universities do not provide all their programs during spring. So, they have a specific admission cycle, so they provide only during that period. Summer, if you look at, this would help students if they want to do some sort of a bridging program prior to getting into a mainstream education, then they can use the summer semester option. And probably to my knowledge, one program which is offered across all seasons is computer science. So, there is no dearth for computer science. So, they offer that in almost all seasonal semesters that are described here. So, your timeline dependent on which admission cycle you intend applying. So, on the whole you need a comfortable 18 months of time frame to get into a US institution. So, when I say 18 months, if you are in high school, you should start this process right from, let us say, probably beginning of your 11th grade or even from the 10th grade onwards. And if you are in a first level college, then you should start it either from your 2nd year or 3rd year, depending on whether you are going for a 3-year education or a 4-year education. Okay. So, we categorize this entire timeline into a 5-step approach, and the 5 steps, you might ask why 5 steps. So, it is in your one hand, right. So, you do not need to take things from the other hand. With one hand you can really manage the entire timeline. So, what do we do first? You know, the US offers umpteen number of choices. There is no thing like, okay, only a science program, only a engineering program. It has n number of options for you. So, the best thing that to identify what suits you is to conduct a intensive research. So, the research again, most of you may resort to Google, but that is not the only thing. There are several other designated directories or websites which help students to pursue a more systematic search on US universities and the programs. Next comes, obviously you need to plan your finances also when you are looking at universities. See, why we say that this should be one after the other is, after applying and you get admission into a US university, no point in thinking about how am I going to fund this education. Instead, if you plan ahead and see what best fits for me, of course, parents definitely will have some plans for the students, and of course, those who are planning for their graduate education might have some plans, maybe you are earning already, it can be anything. Okay. So, the financing comes the next, and once you work on your universities, and then you work on putting up a good application package so that you become more competitive for that institution. And then once the application is done, the university takes some time to review your applications, and then they give your decisions based on that. The 4th step is applying for a visa, especially for international students who are not American citizens. You will need some time to prepare for that as well. So, once you get your admit, you need to decide which university you are planning to attend, and based on that you will go for your visa process. The step 5 is, once the visa is done, now you are almost given a clean sheet to go to US, but you definitely need to do a lot of preparatory work prior to getting into a US institution. The preparation is just not buying tickets and saying bye and hosting parties. It has several other things that you will be really doing. If you look at it, I feel the pre-departure has more things to do than creating your application package. The reason being, you at least have a clear 6 or 8 months of time frame to put up a good application package, but to prepare you only hardly have a 1.5 month or a 2 month time frame. Okay. Okay, I think sorry. So, let us look at the researching your options. So, what do you do in this basically? We call this otherwise as shortlisting universities. So, how do you shortlist university? What suits me may not suit another person, right? So, a lot of people have this idea like, okay, which are the universities you are applying? My senior told me that I can go to I can apply to this institution. My brother studied in this university. So, you cannot really base your what do you call the list of universities upon someone's suitability, right? So, that is why we insist that the research has to have a pattern. So, what is the pattern that we suggest? First of all, you must do a self analysis of yourself and list down what is important for you and what are your priorities. Say for me maybe a location is very important, but for somebody who is going from India may think that I do not worry about location because anyway I am going out of my country. So, why should I bother where I am going to stay there? Maybe for somebody else, my aunt and uncle lives, my family feels it so safe, so location is very important. Other person might say this university does not offer a sport that I play, so I am not interested in applying there. So, it can vary according to the way you think are your priorities, but when you are putting down your priorities, by default the first priority should be the program you want to go for. Okay? If the program is not going to be so great at an university, there is no point in spending so much of money and going there and studying. So, give the top priority to program and then you choose rest of the factors according to your own requirements. If you look at it from February to July, we usually advise that the student work on this researching and shortlisting universities, and while you are doing that, everything is parallel processing here. Nothing like, okay, I go up to July 31st on finding the universities, then on 1st August I cannot prepare for my standardized test. Okay? So, while I am doing that, I have to do that as well. So, if you look at the picture, it indicates that it is a parallel processing. So, while you are doing that, you also prepare and write your standardized test. Why we say that here is, there are a lot of requirements from each university, right? Some universities are test optional, meaning they do not want you to write any standardized test, they do not require your scores. Whereas, some universities might want you to take multiple tests as well, like if you take SAT, they have a general and they also have subject tests. Some universities might say that they want both. In the case of graduates, GRE is one standard thing, but there are many subjects that which does not require GRE as well. But if in case you are shifting your major from your undergrad one major to a different major in masters, some universities require you to take a GRE subject as well. So, these are all the factors that you have to record or tabulate while you are researching about the universities. That is why this time is indicated here. If you look at the TOEFL and IELTS, that is mandatory for international students and also for fewer American citizens if in case they are staying for a longer time here, ever since their birth probably in the US and they are back here and settled, and if they are not really going through a curriculum like IB or let us say even the Cambridge system, and if you are going through a CBSE or the state specific syllabus, some of the universities recommend that you definitely take those English proficiency exams. Whereas, if you are doing your IB or Cambridge, some universities give you an allowance on IELTS or TOEFL, so you do not need to really write them. So, this is something you need to check with the university and it is university specific as well. And sometime your SAT score can help you get waiver on the TOEFL or IELTS. Your EVBR section, what we call, if you get a good score in that above 650, then that may help you waive off the TOEFL or IELTS. And for grad students, there is no waive off, you have to definitely write your TOEFL or IELTS. Okay. Okay. So, this is just I am listing out the various criteria that you can consider while shortlisting universities. So, university and program, that is the primary thing. Region, of course, that is up to you whether how you want to go about it. Financial aid and or scholarships and assistantship play another major factor in deciding about the university. But one thing I would like to emphasize here is, so the university might give lot of scholarship, meaning they are announcing various scholarships in their website, but it does not mean that we are definite to get that, right. So, you must look at the way the conditions are set for such scholarships, how many students they are admitting in their institution, because scholarships are competitive and most of them require a great academic standing. So, when you say scholarship, they expect you to have a very strong academics. So, look at all the things and then decide what is your probability of getting at least 1 or 2 of those scholarship. So, that is very important. An application deadline. Why I bring in the subject of application deadline here is, not everybody start in a very systematic way, like from now. Everything happens all of a sudden. After December, somebody wakes up and say, oh, I have to apply to a US university. And most of the time people will say, oh no, many universities would close their deadline. But still the universities are very generous, I would say. They have, some of the universities have their deadlines until May also. So, if you feel you are not really cut for applying immediately, suppose you have not taken any standardized test, but you want to apply to universities which ask for standardized tests, you are pretty late in your process. In that case, you must look for universities where the application deadlines are pretty late. And if you feel that should not disturb your board exams in the case of undergrad, and your final semesters, maybe you will all be in projects and stuff, then you can also think application deadline as one factor while shortlisting universities. Again, do not believe the myths like universities which are having later deadlines are not worth studying. These are all absolute myths. What best fit you, only you have to see. I mean, if you choose to get into an university which offers you a later deadline, that is a mere choice, but it does not qualify for the quality of education that is imparted in that particular institution. Okay. So, the most of the students, I do understand, look at the acceptance rate, especially at the undergrad. I want to reiterate in the sense, everybody aims at applying only to Ivy Leagues. Good, you should give yourself a challenge and you should apply, but at the same time understand why their acceptance rates are really low and what do they expect out of you. So, if you really want to meet up that expectation, preparing yourself from the 9th grade would be an ideal thing if you are really eyeing Ivy Leagues, and that goes with grad students as well. Have lot of variety of profile for you, like publications, research projects, or working on internships. Everything matters when you put up your profile there. Okay, the stage 2 is financing your studies, and again it is going to be almost a parallel step, and sometimes it goes on until even after you send your applications. Because if you look at the university website, some universities want you to send only the application first, and then they have separate applications for scholarships and other things. So, depending on how they operate, you can pace yourself right from identifying the scholarship to applying to the scholarship. So, you may have time until the next year, February. While you are doing this, I have just listed out few websites here which gives you some good amount of information on scholarships and financial resources. Even if you can't take it down now, do not worry about it. If you visit educationusa.state.gov, that is our website, and it will list out all the links for these resource websites so that you can use them at your convenience. And at the undergrad level, if you are using Big Future or something for college search, the Big Future has a lot of information about scholarships and other things as well. So, you can use them as a pointer for searching. And while you are doing this, it will be a good exercise to scout about various loans, educational loans that are available in your own country, or if you want to understand, can somebody get you a loan in the US, or how those grant loans work, are there any third party organization that support education abroad. All this kind of research you must do at that stage, because most of this kind of grants and loan applications would require a lot more time from you. Okay. So, at the last minute you can search for many of them. So, it is better to do them at this stage itself. So, step 2, we do the financing your study. So, from your baby step of researching, you have started crawling. I must thank my colleague Shilpa who made it very interactive. The third stage or the main stage where you are going to spend most of your time is completing your application. So, when you are, what is that the application process is, so it is not so complicated, but there are several elements that you need to have to complete an application package. It takes a long time. So, one quick thing here, September to March I have specified, but as I said earlier, if you are choosing a deadline in May, you can still extend the time frame to May here. So, what is important at this stage is you must be very clear about the university requirements and have them tabulated. We again and again reiterate that the tabulation of your findings is very important, because otherwise you will be going back and forth and your clarity on list of universities that you have really selected will be lost. So, when you have a tabulation, it is like a quick reference. Even before applying you can decide whether I really want to go for this or not. But if you have not made up your mind on the list of institution that you want to go ahead, it is very difficult and you will find this process really daunting. Sometimes people give up at this stage because they are not very clear about how they want to go about this. Okay. So, that is very important. Now, we will go in detail about the various elements. Application form, that is the primary thing, and it is going to be different for grad and undergrad. So, I will just give few pointers for undergrads first. Undergrads, you have an advantage over grad applicants, I would say, in the sense there is a very well defined application portals that exist for undergraduate students. I think some of you would have heard about Common App, Coalition App, Universal Application. So, these are all 3 different common application portals through which you can submit your application to multiple universities. So, one application, multiple institutions, so your work is pretty much reduced. So, to come to this understanding, your research should be very important. There you should mention whether do they get the application through Common App or Universal or Coalition and things like that. And for suppose you are applying to states like California or Texas, they all have their own application portal as well. So, you should decide which are the locations that you are actually applying and be prepared to spend that much time on your application. So, every application will have a writing supplement, which is essay in the case of undergrads, and for graduate applicants it is called statement of purpose, and if you are going for your PhD program then it is called research statement. So, they are all the one and the same, but they have different nomenclature depending on the level of application that you send. Then every university or depending on the requirement would want you to report your standardized test scores, and you need to get letters of recommendation from teachers if it is high school and from professors if you are applying for grad studies. And you also need to submit your attested educational credentials till then. Say for example, when I am applying I will be in the month of December or January. So, either I will be in my 12th grade or I will be in my final year of college, whatever be the level that you are going through. So, when you are in the final year, you would not have got your 12th grade exam results by then, but you would have up to your 9th, 10th, 11th grade and partially the first quarter or whatever of the high school. In the case of grad applicants, you will have your 5 semester mark sheets or 4 semester mark sheets. The university need only that much. They do not wait for you to get your final scores and send it. They will assess you based on that academic reports that you are submitting. But in the case of an undergrad, there is one unique thing which we call it as a predicted score report. So, the university want to understand how the student has performed over the 3 years of high school, and based on the performance they want to understand what he or she is capable of scoring at the end of your 12th grade. So, this is not something student will predict. Your teachers are there and they understand how you do in a classroom, and they also would have seen your past records and everything. So, based on that they give a predicted score. And again, for universities this is just a measure. They are not deciding your admission only on your predicted score. They are looking at various other elements like your letters of recommendation, your test scores, your final marks from the previous classes, and of course your essays and the proof of finances. I mean, what your parents are capable of, do you need more scholarship, everything put together decides the application. So, the impact, if you look at in an application, is more towards a student profile, and then comes the finances and other part. I mean, parents should not worry like, if I do not show enough finance, will they not get an admission. So, there is always a different what do you call discussions on that. Of course, we will be having future sessions about finances and everything. So, we can go in detail about all of that, but generally to let you know, these are the elements which put together and form an application package which every university takes a look at before giving their decision on your admission. So, now we are slowly gaining momentum. I think we are walking better. So, this is a quick highlight on the UG application deadlines. So, this is not the case for grad students. So, you do not have to worry about it. In the case of undergrad, there are 4 categories: the early decision, early action, regular and rolling admissions. So, the rolling admissions is again common both for grad and undergrad. The rolling admissions work this way, like they keep accepting applications until and they can fill up particular class, and after that if there are application and they find the student really good, they give them admission to the next year. So, that is what the rolling admission is about. So, anytime you can apply, whereas the other 3 category will have a definite date by which you should apply, and you have to decide whether you want to go through any one of these process. Early decision is a binding process. So, when people go for early decision is, if I perfectly know about the university and if I perfectly understand that I am one of the best fit for that institution, and my probability of getting an admission into the school is so high because I almost fit in all the criteria that they are setting me, and I only want to go and study there. If all these matches, then you should apply for a early decision. What happens is, the universities take time, out of turn we usually call it, and they process your application as soon as you send, and within 2 to 3 weeks they give the decision on it. Because they are putting in that extra effort to review your application and give, they feel you are showing lot of interest and you really want to get into that particular institution. And after that, if you feel they did not give you enough scholarship and suddenly you identify a university which comes to you saying, I am giving you 100% scholarship, obviously everyone would want to leave this and go for that. So, when you leave the institution just like that and go, it is very unfair, right? They have taken time to review your application. So, they may have some sort of a penalty for it, and you have to establish a reason why you are pulling out of that institution, and only then they release you. Of course, it is not that difficult that you cannot pull out, but we would always recommend, if you are choosing early decision, be clear about what you really want to do. On the other hand, early action is something where you really assess whether you are fit enough to get into that institution. So, you can have multiple early action admits and you can pick and choose whichever one you want to go through. But prior to applying under any of these 2 categories, please read the clauses and conditions given by the university, so that you are very clear and you understood that, and then you are applying to the institutions. Regular deadline, it is pretty clear, it is at one date by which you really apply to them. And one thing lot of people do is rolling admission, because there is no definite deadline, people wait for all the admits to come through, and if they do not get proper admits, then they apply to the institution which is showing rolling admission. Actually, you are doing a mistake at this stage, because the rolling admission people, like what happens by March, their classes will fill. If you apply to them by April, even if you are a great profile, they might put you in a wait list, or they might reject you. So, the best thing, if you want to have a reassurance, or if you want to feel what we normally say, the feel good factor, if you want to have that in your application process, the first step you should do is to apply to rolling admission schools and ensure that you are you are having an admit. But it does not mean that everybody will automatically get accepted because they applied early. And of course, if the university think that you best fit their profile, then definitely the rolling admission would help you. I think I just have a glitch. Okay, so we'll go further on this process. Okay. So the final stage, you are applying to the institution, and the institution can take anywhere from 4 weeks to 6 weeks, or sometimes it could be even 8 weeks or 10 weeks. Depending on that, you will get your admission information. At the undergrad level, definitely before you write your board exams, you will have your admission decision received on hand. And for the grad students, of course, probably when you are entering the final exam, you will definitely receive the admissions. So once you receive the admission, the next let's say that when you research, you will have about some 8 or 9 universities that best fit your profile. You would have applied to, let's say, 9 institutions, and maybe let's say you have 6 admits from that, and obviously you are only one person, you cannot go and study in all 6 institutions, right. So that's again a stage where we once again repeat the process, the step 1, where we conduct an extensive research on how my life would be when I go to this institution. Is there a growth for me? What are the ways in which this university can help me develop myself? How my future will be? Can I go into research? Can I go into industry? All this kind of decision making happens at that stage, and you pull out the best one out of those 6 or 7 that you have admit from, and you go for your student visa. So if you look at a lot of people, the first thing they come and ask us is, can you tell me something about student visa? So the first question we ask them is, have you already got an admit with the institution? But you are surprised, the answer will be, no, I'm thinking of studying in the US, so I just want to know whether I will get a visa. So I mean, that's actually a wrong question. This is the last, almost the last stage, I would say. So first do your other part of the work properly, and this stage is just say 4 months prior, because as an international student you cannot apply for this visa 120 days, not more than 120 days prior to your program starting. So your programs usually start in the month of August or September, so you cannot go obviously in the month of April for it, right. So there is a stipulated time frame that they have kept for it. And for any visa process understanding, you could visit the US Travel Docs website, and in our future session there will be exclusive sessions on student visa, so you could come and attend that to get a better clarity, and I think at that stage you also would be there in that step. And finally, the departure, so which is happening in the last 2 months of your time, because some universities start in August and some in September, some would be end September, some would be beginning September. So all this thing depends on the university that you have chosen, and make sure you can only go 30 days prior to the program start date. So if the program is starting in September, you can land in US only in August and not prior to that, if you are not an American citizen. Of course, American citizens are free to go anytime that you would like to go, but this is specifically for international students. Okay, I'm sorry. So this is the, what do you say, the summary of whatever we discussed so far. So we start, let's say, in the month of February 2019 to go to a school in September 2020. So this is the 18-month time frame. So how to fasten this up, or if you want to extend it further, everything depends on you, but within this 18 months, it is definitely achievable that you land in a institution of your choice. So, but follow all the steps that we have highlighted here. So, start your research, understand universities that you think are the best fit for you, use proper criteria to filter them, simultaneously work on your financial process, whether is there an opportunity to get more scholarship, or how to improve my profile so that I become qualified for that. So, all these things you do in step 2. So, by the time you come to step 3, you would have finished the required tests by the US institutions, and you will also start working on your application process. The application package depends on several other people as well apart from your own. So, be in good books of your teachers and profs, and make sure, please brief them well ahead that you are applying to a US university, so that don't pressurize them if October 31st your deadline, and don't go and ask them on October 29th to upload a letter of recommendation. It is very difficult for any human for that matter. So, take time for all this. By August, inform them that you are working on a US university application process, so that they can help you with getting ready of all the supplemental documents. and spend exclusively 2 months time on preparing your essay or your statement of purpose or statement of research, so that it describes well about you and your goals in life, so that the university can understand you much better than the other documents that you are furnishing for them. So, once you cross step 3, 4 and 5 should be a breeze for you, because you have done your maximum work at that stage and you are rewarded with many admissions. So, 4 and 5 should not be a problem for you. So, this screen is also available with us. I can give a, we can send it as a soft copy to all of you if you want to have a follow up on where you are in this timeline. Okay. So, these are the ways in which Education USA, almost all Education USA Center helps, but I am just highlighting what Chennai Center does for you. We do these sort of group sessions for students, and most of our sessions happen on Thursdays, and the Thursday sessions are invariably live sessions. So, like the audience who have gathered here at the American Center, we have several of our online audience from Facebook and YouTube. I really thank them for listening to me. And then we conduct weekly online webinars, that is usually on Saturdays, and we offer a one-on-one personalized counseling services for students who want to start their journey now, and it is for a fee. You could reach out to our office inside the American Center if you want more information about the services that we offer. And anytime you can walk into our center, that is from Monday to Friday 9:30 to 4:30. We will be more than happy to address any sort of questions that you have in mind related to US higher education. If you can't come in person, feel free to write to us in the email ID. The handouts that we have distributed have all the contact information of us. Apart from this, we have real treasure of information in the form of books, and we have a great resource on online as well. So, a dedicated YouTube channel called Education USA India. So, you can reach out to your YouTube channel, you can go to our Facebook page to see the live stream videos, and you can also reach out to the US Consulate Chennai Facebook page for all the recorded videos of our previous sessions, and you will find sessions that address any queries of you during your application process. The webinars you can watch out in our Facebook page, and these are our contact details, and you can WhatsApp also your queries. So, we will be happy to help you through that as well. So, our WhatsApp number is 9500084773. Apart from that, the great resource that is going to be on your fingertips is our mobile app. Please download the Education USA India mobile app, and you can register through that, and you get push notifications on the events that we conduct in this center. You can subscribe for all the notifications, and you can also create your profile in that and share it with an advisor, so that we understand what you would really like to get the help from. And so, there are very many services like this which we offer to students. Most of them are free except for our one-on-one counseling sessions for the students, where you get assigned to an advisor. The advisor will work with you on every level of you, right from shortlisting and your application package, reviewing the essay or SOPs that you write. Okay. So, I think thank you all. With that, the session ends, and I have a quick announcement about our forthcoming session. We are having a session on June 27th, that is going to be about doing graduate studies. So, this is meant for students who want to go for their higher education in the US for, let us say, MS or a PhD program, and we have an exclusive session for them which will only detail about the application process related to graduate studies. Okay. Now, I am open to take questions, and both online viewers and those who have gathered here at the American Center, please feel free to address your queries. Yeah.
I'm not sure if the question the answer that, but we've already made the decision to go to US university colleges for undergraduation for my daughter, and for some reasons we decided to come out of the regular board of schooling, and right now she is with the National Institute of Open Schooling. But she is good in academics, and she is also good in music piano. That is the reason she came. Is she eligible for all these?
Okay.
is the, I mean, if in case it is eligible, then are they in a position to accept the transcripts? And if so, whom should we collect the transcripts from? Because it doesn't have a principal or a headmaster or something.
Okay, okay. So the question from the in-house audience is about doing high school in open schooling method or homeschooling, what we popularly call it. How can a student from an open schooling or homeschooling produce transcripts for submitting to the universities? So this question is with respect to a specific syllabi, that is NIOS. So you could reach, you can actually request the NIOS board to give you the transcripts, which are basically the mark sheets. I remember that they allow you to take exams in parts, right? So every part you will get a transcript, so that you can use it to send it to the university. And most of the NIOS, either it is offered in a school or you will be going to a school for contact program. So you could approach the teachers who are actually conducting your contact classes and ask them for even letters of recommendation, or you could approach your nearest NIOS regional center and ask the person in charge or the director to write a letter of recommendation which can well describe about how the curriculum basically works.
So I just graduated from college, and I want to know about college opportunities that I have without having work experience, or is that even something that's a high chance? Because
Okay, the question from the audience is about going for an higher education soon after completing the previous level, that is at the undergrad level, without a work experience. Actually, there is no prescribed requirement as work experience in most of the US universities. However, it is definitely dependent on the program that you are intend applying to. Say if it is going to be a program that definitely requires a work experience, then obviously it goes without saying that you need to have that to be fulfilled. If not, then you can very well start your application process and you can apply to the US institution. Yes.
I'll have a couple of questions. So one is that you said like one-to-one advisors. You said some fees. Can I know what is the amount?
Yeah. So the question is about the services offered at the Education USA Chennai Center. So the one-on-one counseling, we charge a fee for it, and it is rupees 10,000, and it is valid for 1 year from the date of signing. Yeah.
The second one I like to ask you. Can I ask you?
Sure, sure.
Yes, right. She is studying, my daughter is studying in a CBSE system. That certificates need to be translated, or that's whatever the institute is giving is more than enough?
Okay. So the question is about students studying in a CBSE curriculum. Should we produce a transcript that is or which is in the format of a US academics? So it is absolutely not required. Please send the original transcripts that you get from the CBSE system. Say 9th and 10th grade may be in the same, or it could be 9th could be a class based exam, 10th could be board, 11th again a class based exam, and 12th. So in whatever pattern you receive the report from the school, please send it in the same format. Do not apply any conversion, because the GPA conversion is specifically done by the university when they receive your transcript to understand the equivalency between a system that is outside of US and that of that prevails in the US.
Is there any difference for the American citizens applying for undergrad from here, other than the visa processing?
Okay.
In universities?
Okay. The question is about US citizens who are currently in India applying for their applying for US universities. See, there is absolutely no difference. Everybody has to go through the same process, except that, as you said, they don't need a visa. And the universities also understand that there are several citizens who live in many parts of the world, and wherever they are, they look at the curriculum that they have gone through, and probably the comparison will be done only with that pool of students and not with an American citizen. So technically, if you want to give them a name, they are not international students, they are not American citizens. You can call them as American citizens with an international curriculum. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, please.
So, the standardized test, specifically the SAT, taking those tests from India, looks like this crucial period from July to September, there's tests. Next available is only October. So we haven't
Mhm.
So the earliest we could do is
October. Mhm.
So will that affect the application, the timelines?
Okay. So the question is about taking standardized test, let's say for especially for the undergrads, where the opportunities are very limited, and would it be okay if I take it in the month of October? Yes, of course, though the timeline says that you have to start all this process earlier, there's always what we call an out of box rule, right? So considering that, you can definitely write in October and you can present the scores to the university. Why we insist on doing it early is, suppose if your previous score is not so great and you want to improve your profile and send it, then October is another chance by which you can write. Again, I wouldn't recommend that. If you feel that you are not going to be very comfortable waiting until that, you could also change the standardized test that you want to write. Instead of an SAT, you could go for ACT. If they give more number of test dates, so you could opt for that as well. You can plan it that way. Yeah.
If you write the test couple of times, does that affect your chances actually?
No, absolutely not. The test number of times writing a test is immaterial. It only shows that the student doesn't want to give up and want to see if he or she can improve on the performance. But universities can adopt systems like best of scores, or they put together both the scores to bring up the best scores possible. So you have that facility.
And for 2021, the entire timeline gets shifted by 1 year, right?
By 1 year, but again, it's no harm in starting the research and other things. So familiarity with the institution and why we are choosing it, you become more strong in why you are choosing it. Any more questions?
We have an online question
Yeah.
from Ramunathan. He wants to know more about scholarships.
Okay. Acknowledging the question from Mr. Ramunathan, it's about scholarships. So more about scholarships, yes, of course everybody wants to more about scholarships. So if you look at scholarships, there can be different types of scholarship. One is the university gives a scholarship to students depending on whether you are international or American. So while you are doing your research, whichever university you are listing down, you can make sure that you are looking at an university which has more number of scholarship schemes than compared to the ones which have fewer. The second thing is you should also look at the outside world and figure out if there are any organizations or institutions that encourage international students going abroad and studying, and you could apply for them as well. So whatever be the case, starting early is the one which will help you figure out more options either for scholarship or about the universities. Yes, ma'am.
This one-on-one session, right?
Yeah.
Like that, many consultants are there in India and abroad. Is it compulsory that, is it a myth or thing, like only if we go through the consultant we will get through a college, or if we go do our own research also we can get?
Okay. The question from the audience is that, is it necessary to always go through a counselor, either a private counselor or a designated official counselor? My answer, this is my personal opinion on that, I would say definitely not required if the student is able to do everything on their own. So all you need is common sense, and all you need is eye for information. If you are able to do a very methodical and a systematic way, anybody can achieve this, and I don't think it is really necessary. And I would like to add one more thing, having a counselor neither improve your chances of getting in or getting a reject from the institution, because it end of the day it depends on the applicant's profile and not the counselor profile. Yeah.
We have an online question.
Yeah, sure.
From Yashwant. When a student goes independently to US for an undergrad education, is there any post-arrival service available to settle the student on campus?
Okay. So the question is from our online viewer Yashwant, and it's about what is the service available for me at the university on arrival. Actually, this is a very, I would say an interesting question on a kickstart session. So are you thinking about the last leg, Yashwant? Then congratulations to you. That most of the universities do have what we call as an international student office. Either they are called as ISSO office or ISO. They may have different names for it. But this international students office help in a great deal for the international students who arrive at the campus, help them with accommodations, help them settle first. In fact, you do have airport pickups, and they help you stay with a senior first and then get yourself acclimatized to the place, and then they put you on to your housing options and stuff. So, there are a lot of services offered by the US institutions, but only thing is you need to be very aware of which flight are you boarding, giving them the right time. I mean, make sure that you are always not talking in IST. You should also think about whether it is UST or the Pacific time, and accordingly give your arrival, and they will be in a position to pick you up properly and host you well enough. I hope that answers your question. Yes, ma'am.
Suppose the child is going to the university in the first year, and then the family moves in. So, can the child stay with the parent instead of the college?
Okay, the question is about students starting their education the first year and the family moving in a year later. Okay, if it is an undergrad student, then most of the universities have a terms and conditions stating that 2 years of dorm life is necessary, or they say it's mandatory. So, you have to check with the institution. There can be some exceptions as well. Yeah.
This pre-med, there is a program.
Yeah.
This also comes under undergrad or?
Yeah. So, the question is about pre-med program. Is it an undergrad program? Yes, it is an undergrad program. It just that it helps the student to prepare in line of appearing for a qualifying exam and then getting into a med school later on. So, in the US the system is little different. As soon as you finish high school, we are able to get into a professional degree here. In the US it is not possible. The student had to do a standard 4-year bachelor's program which is accented towards that particular professional line, and then they have a qualifying professional entry level exam. If they clear both, and then they have to repeat the same process, and then they finally get into a med school or law school, whichever they intend to apply.
What is the timeline for the pre-med?
Pre-med is again 4 years, 4 years of undergrad education. Sometimes it could be 4.5, but very rare. 4 is the usual time.
You mentioned scholarship and assistantship. So, for assistantship, it's either scholarship or assistant or both?
Okay. So, the question is about, do I get both scholarships and assistantship or only one of them? If you are really a good student, you can get both. So, there is a distinct difference between scholarship and assistantship. Scholarships does not expect anything from you. It is a reward for the academic standing that you have, and if you maintain, you will be continued to get it. The assistantships are basically, it is a job oriented thing or a work oriented. So, you do some activity and you get paid for it, right. So, it is possible that if let us say that you are getting into a department which has more funding, and the professors are also involved in several types of research for which they are really looking for students who can help them with it, then in that case it is quite possible that you would land in both. And the assistantship itself of different category, one is a general graduate assistantship, the other one can be teaching assistant where you can shadow the professor and also sometime work on grading of the students and other things. I mean initial grading, of course the final is always done by the professors, and the research is again engaging with the research that they are doing, helping them with setting the lab or in whatever way they want you to work with, and you get a stipend on a monthly basis for that.
I understand that even before we apply, you have to decide on the field of study, and it is like priority 1 and priority 2. But even there, when the student is not yet really clear, she is honest enough to even specify it in the essay of admission. My question is, at what point of time is the student allowed to take a transfer? Should the student wait till the course of study is completed, or is she allowed to make the transfer even
in
while
between.
the course is still on?
Okay. So, the question is about, I would say I would put it into 2 parts. One is, should we always define a course of study when we are applying to a US institution, or how is it possible to transfer between different field of interest? Okay. So, answering the first part of the question, there is something called a undecided major which most of the US universities really recommend. So, if you are really in a situation where you cannot decide on a major, you can declare yourself as undecided, and we have actually seen cases in the past that students have done it, and then later on after 1 year they were able to decide which specialization would really best fit them. Okay, so that answers the first part. Second part, okay, I am declaring now my first priority is astrophysics, second priority is economics, and third priority I do not have one. But later on when I go there, I realize I am neither good at astrophysics nor good at economics, and I think my interest is only, let us say, in mathematics. So I can very well change my field of study from any of these to mathematics, because the declaration of what I am going to do comes into picture only at the end of the 4th semester. I mean final declaration. There are students who declare even from the very first semester that I am moving into the stream, that is fine. But if you are very unclear, even at the end of the 4th semester you can declare saying that this is the field of study that I am going in for, and related to that, if you are already able to do few subjects in the first 4 semesters, it will help your smooth transition. Otherwise it may probably sometime lengthen your 4-year education to 4.5-year education, because you end up doing all the courses required for declaring that particular major. So you can actually play around well with that. Most of them in fact decide by the end of the first year, those who are going as undecided also. But if you are really unsure, then you must also target institutions which are liberal arts and sciences, so that you are able to figure out your own potential and you become a overall well developed person.
But even there we are required to declare the field of
Yes, to some extent, and of course there are certain leverages that is given in a liberal arts and sciences program. You can give equal importance to 2 different field of study, those sort of things are there. It all decides on how you declare your, how you take your major courses and minor courses.
From your answer, what I understand is, even though we specify the field of study in the essay of admission and things, they do not take us into the program right from the start. It even takes 2 or even 4 semesters for the student to actually. Okay.
Exactly, but if you are very clear with that, the school also gives you that freedom. Apart from the required core courses, you can take your major and minor during the first and second semester also, but you can still be waiver about not showing, okay, this is what I am going to do about. But again, check the university rules, because some of them might have certain specification, how much of changes that you can do and all that.
So that can happen as and when the application is proceeding?
Yes.
That university?
Yeah. I mean, not when the application is proceeding, after you get admitted into the university. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So just a couple of questions. One is related to what she is asking. If a student is interested in, say, both engineering as well as in humanities, does that mean that he has to choose a liberal arts curriculum or something like that, or how does it work?
Not always, but you could look for the flexibility in terms of choosing courses the university gives. So he could still go for his major passion, and because he cannot choose that as a minor. Some universities allow a minor if they are able to find a connect between the major and the minor. If not, he has to find a way by which unrelated minors are allowed for them, and he can choose that. In other case, some universities come up with this MDS program, multidisciplinary studies or interdisciplinary studies, IDS or MDS. So you see if the university supports that sort of a mission, so that he can do 3 different things, but finally end up doing a capstone project which brings in the connect. So it's like create your own program style.
Yeah, we will be applying to colleges from October, and our IELTS courses, they start from like July. It starts from July in the middle of the end, and I think we will be taking our exams by September, mid of September or October beginning. Is it too late, or
yeah, the question is, yeah, okay. The question is about taking IELTS or TOEFL language proficiency exam close to the month of September, before proceeding with your application process. I wouldn't say it is bad. You can still go ahead and do it, but why we are insisting on an early thing is, if the score turned out to be not so great, then you don't have a chance to reappear again, because the timeline is so short. But if you are 100% confident and if your preparation is good enough to go for just one shot, then even September is fine. But please bear in mind, By the time you receive your scores, it may take about 10 days from the date of exam or sometimes 3 weeks from the date of exam. And if you want to report the score to the university, that may take again 15 days. So, make sure that you choose the deadline of the university in such a way that it is in end of November, so that you can very well play with this. Any more questions? I think we have almost come to the fag end of the program. Yes, sir.
Regarding the financial support, you said we have to apply for the funding. If we are not getting any funding, what is the minimum amount we are supposed to keep or
okay. So, the question is about finances and also the cost of education. Okay. So, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, scholarships are not something that it is guaranteed. Okay. So, it all depends on student profile and several other and number of students applying, grants available, all that. But if in case you need to have a budget in mind, but the general pricing range what we normally see is anywhere from $25,000 of tuition fee, it can go up to some $60,000. So, you can see which one best fit you. If in case you want to bring down the cost of education, this is possible only in the undergrad, not for grad. There is an option called 2+2 year education. So, some of you might have heard about this concept called community colleges. So, the community colleges in US offer a 2-year program, which is almost similar to what you would do in a 2-year of the 4-year degree awarding university. So, the fee that you would be paying for an university and a community colleges is really like way apart. So, it will be 1/3 of what you are actually paying for 1 year of the undergrad education in the university. So, though the community colleges focus was to prepare the local communities to be one is empowered, and also like they prepare them for the industries around and qualify them. Of late, the focus of the community colleges is also to give a greater education for the students who are coming and studying there. And community colleges have now come up with a scheme called, it is not a scheme basically, it is an option I would say, guaranteed transfer track. So, what is the meaning of this guaranteed transfer track is, you do a 2-year community college program, not for just acquiring an degree as what we call as an associate degree from the community college. Your ultimate goal is, after this 2 years of education, you want to continue your education in a university from the 3rd year onwards. So, when you have this kind of a continued educational focus, and the primary reason for choosing this is basically the economics and funds availability, there are many good community colleges which offer this program. So, they have a tie-up with the university, or we call it as articulation agreements. So, there are several community colleges that have articulation agreement with the university. So, when the students come from these community colleges and they have those enough required course credits that they need to have, then based on that and evaluating their standing, there is some amount of GPA that you should get, like over 3.0 and stuff, then the university will transfer them to the 3rd year of at the university, going for the particular field of study that they are interested in studying. So, there is another option many parents can think about, and you can also go to the Community College Association. If you just Google it, you will find AICC, and they give lot of information about these sort of programs.
But is there actually a huge difference in quality between the community college and the normal university?
Certainly not, sir, because the facility what they offer at a community college and at the university, but the only variation what you are going to have is you are going to be with a small pool of students, and like the wide opportunity to be engaged in activities and other things may not be available here, but we must understand what is our focus and accordingly we should push that. It is not diploma, ma'am, it is actually called associate degree, and there are people even after getting a master's degree, let us say that I do my masters in computer science, but I do not have let us say an digital art specialization, and the job that I want to do needs me to go through a digital art specialization, then I can join a associate degree, complete that, and I am qualified to get jobs related to that. We do not call it as a certification program, we call it as a degree granting, which is called associate degree. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I think we are almost at the fag end of our presentation. thank you so much for engaging, and thank you for all the queries that you had, so that many could benefit by answering them. Please do join us for the future sessions, and you can sign up, download our app and get notified by all the sessions that we conduct here. And as I mentioned in the beginning, on June 27th we have a session for graduate studies. So, if there are any graduate students, please do join us at the time. And you can watch the recorded presentation at the US Consulate Chennai Facebook page. Please keep posting your queries and comments in our WhatsApp number, as well as in our US Consulate Chennai Facebook page. Thank you.